Welcome to I Find a Local, where we talk to business owners, share stories and ideas that are deserving of being told. I am your host, Andrew Plummer. Today I'm having a conversation with Marc de Bruin. I've known Marc for about 10 years and I've always found him to be an interesting character, to say the least. He's originally from Holland. Marc retired from being a lawyer and migrated to Australia about 17 years ago, and he is now a life coach and a mental health counsellor. I hope you enjoy the conversation we're about to have. This is a relatively new channel. I'd really appreciate it if you could like, comment and share these videos. That would be much appreciated. And of course, click the notification bell and to subscribe to the channel. That would be great. Thanks in advance. And once again, I hope you enjoy the following conversation. G'day, Marc. How you doing?
G'day, Andrew.
I've actually been looking forward to having a chat to you because of what you do, and especially in this climate. It's a bit of a crazy old world at the moment. But before we delve into what you're doing and how you're helping people right now, tell me a little bit about your past. You're a litigation lawyer, which...
Yeah, that's it. Litigation lawyer for nearly 10 years, 6 years full-time, 3 years part-time in a different country in the Netherlands.
Holland,
yeah, loved it in a way, but didn't like the fact that there was always someone on the other side who didn't get what they want. So the helping guy in me felt good to help clients, but never felt good about making other people sort of feel a bit rotten about themselves because they didn't get what they want. So,
right.
And a couple other things about professional ethics where I got on that. Got to get out of this industry, but love law as a field.
Yeah.
Just don't want to work in it.
Yeah. And so what drove you to come to Australia? What made you come to Australia?
I think adventure and some unknown factors that I can't explain. It was just a country to be in.
Right.
But look, a couple of logical arguments, language we can easily speak, good weather, lots of space, lots of adventure, and just something entirely different.
Yeah.
So lots of semi-logical arguments, but the big one was just a big pull that I cannot explain.
Right.
So, yeah.
So we met probably, well, I don't know exactly how long ago, but about
years. Yeah.
Maybe about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And when, how do I explain it, we were talking about it before, sort of the woo-woo stuff, which in my opinion now isn't quite so woo-woo, but
woo-woo at all.
the metaphysics and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And I got first introduced to that by a mutual friend, Michael Rhodes, as we both know. And I was sort of, probably am a little bit still, a bit redneckish, but got introduced to Michael, and I don't know, something just resonated with me. I just sort of opened up, I guess, and wanted to learn more about what he has to say. And you're sort of into the same sort of thing, aren't you? You're friends with Michael as well.
Yeah, good friends. Yeah. Yeah, very good friends. Been for a long time now.
Yeah.
Like I told you over coffee, my mum was a real spiritual woman. All sorts of interesting books on the shelf, and as a kid, I just got infected with that stuff. So. Read 2 of Michael's books that she had on the shelf. Was interested, but didn't know much. And a couple of years later, he actually arrived on the Dutch scene doing a 5-day retreat.
Oh, that's how you first met Michael.
And that's how I first met him, because I knew of him. And then a friend of mine told, this Michael Rhodes dude, he's coming to the Netherlands. And it's like, I know about this guy. I read a couple of books. So long story short, we got intrigued and signed up and went. And that started the whole ball rolling of me quitting my job 3 years later or 4 years later. He sort of slapped me around the face with, why are you so serious, Marc? And going, me serious? He's like, I'm not serious. Anyway, it got me thinking.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I'm still on that journey. I mean, I think once you're on it, it's really never really ending, to be honest with you.
No, which is also a bit of a nasty one, because once you're on this road, you can't get off. So once you know more, you can't go back to a place where you say, I just don't want to know.
I don't know whether I want to go back though. I mean,
no, I don't.
I've still got a long way to go. Don't get me wrong. I'm still really quite at the beginning. But I mean, the last 2 years or so, a bit longer, have been quite stressful for me, and I'm sure many people. And if I weren't sort of on that path, I don't know how I would have coped, to be honest with you.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, that sounds right. I think a big one for me a long time ago was really this idea of, if life is my responsibility, which I now find quite a liberating thought, because if it's my responsibility, it means I'm empowered to make change in my own life. But when I first realised that life is actually my responsibility and I can't point fingers and blame others, that was a heavy one, man. That really lay heavy on my shoulders. As in, okay, I mean, it's life is my thing. Like, I make it. And that's something I find in mental health now as well, where, you know, I don't say it with that many words to clients, but, you know, you get them to a point, or you try to get them to a point that they realise that life is their responsibility, and they can make changes, rather than say, oh, it's the economy, or it's my wife/husband, or it's my employer, or whatever, or it's my depression or anxiety, and therefore I'm helpless and hopeless. When you get people to say, well, you can make changes, that can be liberating, but initially it's like a slap in the face. And that's how I felt it. Definitely is like, oh, okay, there's no pointing fingers anymore.
No, well, we're not taught that at school, are we? Nothing at all. And I mean, you sort of got to look within to find happiness, I think, and live in, as they say, live in the now. And for me, you know, whilst I sort of know a lot of the theory without sounding like a know-it-all, it's still hard to sort of really come to terms with it and understand it fully. I mean, so I think, I think, you know, well, let's talk about, you know, what's happening in the last 2.5. Let's not go too deep, but I think we're on a similar page. A lot has happened. A lot has happened, and you know, I think that many people are very confused and suffering from it. I certainly don't think we're at the end. We're at the beginning, if anything else. So, if you wouldn't mind, sort of just telling us how you obviously you're a counsellor, a mental health counsellor, life coach now. How did you get into that field?
That's a fluke thing, I reckon. Look, I think if I look at my values, which is part of the work I do, I've always wanted to help people, make a difference, keep learning, and make the world a better place in a way. I'm just a sucker for that stuff in a way. But I didn't know what I wanted to do when we came here, so I practiced something called body stress release, which is a manual therapy along the lines of Bowen therapy, and did that, so set that up here as well. And then my partner one day spotted an ad in a local rag, you know, life coach training.
This is here.
Yeah. Maricador was one of the local magazines, and she said, you know, it was an information evening about a life coaching course that was coming up, and a 1.5 hour presentation or something about this course, and she said, this is something for you. And I had a look at it, and I was like, life coaching? I don't even know what that is. Never heard of it. And that's 18 years ago or something. And went along to the info night, signed up on the spot. A 1.5 years later, I was a certified life coach and kicked off on that practice, but initially combining it with the body work, the body stress release stuff that I was doing. And then slowly that transitioned into neuro-linguistic programming, training, all sorts of facilitation, public speaking a bit. And that slowly rolled into counselling. So it's been a progression from life coaching to NLP to counselling and training, and now more counselling, coaching as a combined thing in a way. So it's been very organic. Not even my deliberate choice. It was just something that came on my way. Well, my lovely partner who pointed it out to me, as she always does. She points me in the right direction.
They usually do, don't they?
No, I do it. I just pick up on it.
So how long have you been a life coach for then now?
Life coach since 2005. What's that? 17 years now, pretty much. And counsellor proper, certified as in Diploma trained, and now Master's trained counsellor since 2012. So that's 10 years. But combining the both in a way.
Very good. And so, obviously not mentioning names, but you're finding that more and more people are requiring counselling and help? And
it's a funny one, hey, because statistically you see people take up counselling more, and that you can say, well, there's a need. On the other hand, I think it's also an awareness growth in people that actually counselling can help. So a lot of people become more aware of the fact that they could do with some help and are willing and open to get into there. So the stigma is dropping. So a lot of people are just, let's talk to a counsellor, whereas maybe 10, 20 years ago I was like, oh no, counselling, I don't need counselling, I'm all right.
So do you think it's a combination of the reason you sort of fairly overloaded at the moment is a combination of people becoming more sort of understanding, what's the word, being aware or being prepared to, or realising that a counsellor might help, whereas before, like you said, there was a stigma, and then combine that, of course, with these crazy times that we live in. Yeah,
since 2020, when COVID started hitting the Australian shores proper, demand went up about 25-30% in my practice, and I was already pretty much full, but I know by the request that I sometimes had to knock back because I just didn't have any time. Sort of kept a bit of a stat on that one, and there was about a 20%, 25% increase in demand of people that say, look, could you help? And that can be relationship stuff, because people all of a sudden were stuck in the house together, raising kids, homeschooling, workplace issues, not being able to go back to work, an overall sense of hopelessness, helplessness, lack of freedom, people having problems with predicting the future or seeing a future. All sorts of bigger existential stuff, that normally you don't talk about or don't feel the need to talk about because they're sort of bumbling along. Yeah. But now all of a sudden it was absolutely in people's faces, like they were faced with big issues. It's like, okay, what are we going to do?
Yeah, is it slowing down or is it getting worse?
It's slowing down a little bit. You still see the reverberation of that one, and I think. Now look, I'm a bad crystal ball gazer. I've been notoriously bad at crystal ball gazing, but I think for the next 5 or 10 years, we'll see after effects, aftershocks from what happened over the last 2.5 years, still happening in people either redesigning, redefining their lives, or the Great Resignation, people just quitting their jobs and going like, well, stuff that, I'm out of here, I'm going to do things differently.
Yeah, well, I don't mean to sound like I want to stay positive, of course, but I really don't think I think we're just at the beginning of a lot of this craziness.
Yeah,
I think. So. Oh my God, it's just absolute madness. I mean, I guess what would I say stress out about? Maybe that's the wrong word. What I don't understand is, and sometimes I've had to question myself and go, am I wrong in my thinking here? And is this just a bit? Am I? But I don't think I am. I think we are. This has all been quite deliberate, and obviously some people listening to this won't like me saying that, and others will agree with me. But I guess it's created so much division in the community, and that's sad. I think we all have a right to an opinion, and we should be able to express ourselves.
Yep.
And but sadly, I think a lot of people, aren't even prepared to open the door and have a look, and just sort of think, just in case that just to see that maybe that what we're saying or some of us are saying are right. So yeah, it's just absolute crazy. And like I said to you before, it's been tough on me too. I think it's been tough on a lot of people.
It's an interesting one. I years and years ago, I heard Michael Rhodes already talking about this movement towards polarization. Not necessarily that we would become polarized per se, just that there seems to be a spiritual motion happening towards picking a side, not because you have to pick a side, but because you become more aware of where you stand. And he says that's ongoing. And this was something he said, maybe in the late 1990s, early 2000s already. He said there's a trend of people going into a particular corner and saying, well, that's where I belong, or that's where I belong. And it doesn't matter where you are. He said it doesn't matter who you pick, but that seems to be happening. And I've always remembered that, and him saying that, because I could see that in the legal field, I can see it in the counselling field as well, but you can also see it in society at large now, and especially over the last couple of years, that's just absolutely skyrocketed, where people, and it doesn't even matter what topic, but people really take sides now and are in camps. And this whole binary stuff is like, well, you're either for or against, seems to come up quite often, whereas in counselling we try to teach people like, well, there's always in-betweens, and even in the law we're trying to make people see there's in-betweens.
Absolutely, but the big thing I think is there's just been so much division and so much hatred towards each other. I mean, families are breaking up and not talking, divorces, I'm sure,
They've gone up.
It just goes on and on and on, and I've never been... I've always sort of been anti-establishment a little bit.
A rebel.
No, well, I wouldn't. I just think, anyway, won't go too deep into that. But anti-establishment. But what gets me is how people. We're just so indoctrinated, and that's mainly because of the TV, I think. And I've never been a big TV person, but I'd switch it on for something to do here and there. And I think unknowingly, you're just being indoctrinated, you're being hypnotised. And it would be almost a year ago, my aerial stopped working, and I haven't watched TV since. And Jesus, nice feeling. I don't miss it one little bit, but in my humble opinion, they are there to. And I don't believe the presenters even know what's going on, but they're just there reading a script, and we're being indoctrinated. And as we went through all this nonsense with the COVID and thing, they were just was fear, and people were just quite frightened by it all.
Yeah, but it's interesting, because I read a lot of psychological based stuff. There's a guy in America called Adam Grant, and he's an interesting research psychologist. And he talks about that as well. He said, well, of course, we are fear beings because that's how we're biologically wired. So we tend to react to stuff that produces fear in us, and that's what the media seems to go for, because good news channels never last. Because people not necessarily like as in liking it, but we are pretty much hardwired to read about bad stuff because it can help us prepare for things. But then it becomes overcharged, it becomes so bad that hardly anything good is happening in the news anymore, whereas there's plenty of that. But it seems to be this natural tendency of humans just to go for like, oh my gosh, did you know what happened? And have bad news stuff or bad news stories have more attention and create more, likes and, just retweets and whatever than the good news stories do. And I think he talks about that as like, well, you want to make sure you start balancing that out. And I think you can't even blame the media for that per se. It's just part of our natural tendency to be more focused on survival and things that could threaten our survival than we are on thriving and feeling good. And that balance that's already offset, it just over the last couple of years, it just plunked to the full extent.
Yeah.
And people are very fear driven, and that's not bad per se. But if that gets taken to extreme, you get situations like we're stuck in right now.
Yeah. It's hard not to go down this rabbit hole a little bit, but I was speaking to a friend of mine yesterday, and an electrician came in. This is sort of during the height of an electrician came in to fix a meter board at his factory. And so he went to walk up towards him, and the electrician said, "Stay away from me, get away from me. I don't want to catch the COVID,
Oh, yeah, right.
And, and it's like the masks, you read on the box, they say it doesn't work. The masks don't work, but once again, I think anyway, it's just crazy. But okay, moving forward. So if one is, if you can just give a few tips. If one's feeling a bit down and out because of the situation, or feeling depressed, I know that depression can hit anybody. Another friend of mine who I spoke to the other day, he went through a bad time with depression, and an unlikely candidate. It came out of nowhere. But is there a way to sort of prevent it, or little things you can do to sort of help yourself?
Prevention is tough. Well, prevention, yes, but that would be a complete lifestyle change. That's a bit hard to sort of get into. But if you find yourself being in a down mood or depressed, sure, switch off from, not necessarily from the news, because it's okay to stay up to date with what's going on. But if you know that actually feeds your depression, switch off. Just don't read newspapers, don't watch the news, don't listen to the news for a while. Don't be an idiot. You don't have to be ignorant. But just minimize your exposure to stuff that actually feeds your depression. Just do that. And on the flip side, start engaging more in things that normally, let's call it feed your soul or feed your head. Read uplifting stuff, watch funny movies, go hang out with good friends, spend time in nature, write some stuff, read some stuff that helps you to feel at least differently, so you can offset that mood and get really focused on that. And stopping exposure to stuff that feeds what it is that you're already feeling will definitely help, because it's just a brain thing in a way. You don't want to keep feeding yourself the stuff that makes you feel bad.
No. And as they say, you are the average of who you hang out with most, so it's probably a good idea to hang out with like-minded people who are... Yeah,
the books you read and the people you meet.
And what about diet and exercise?
Yeah, absolutely. Exercise has long been very well established as a good way to not overcome, but to help work through things like depression and anxiety. Physical exercise is necessary. It's good. We are a moving being. We're supposed to roam the lands and hunt for food and all that sort of stuff. So exercise is definitely still good, creates a lot of endorphins. It's good for you to burn off all the adrenaline and cortisol that might be running through your system. And it's a good distraction way as well. A bit of vitamin D from the sun is a good thing.
Absolutely.
Nutrition, definitely. I wrote an article on that one recently where when we feel depressed or anxious, our behaviour seems to follow that. So if you're depressed, we tend to go towards food and drink that actually
like sugar
feeds that depression, sugar and fat and alcohol. Yeah, and it's not that easy. It's not that simple, but that tends to happen. So more awareness and deliberate commitment to stay healthy in terms of drinking lots of water and eating healthy food, fruits and veggies and all that sort of stuff. Stay away from the red meats for a bit, stay away from the starchy stuff for a while, stay away from all the sugary and fatty things for a bit, unless it's the Mediterranean stuff,
Yeah.
I don't claim to be a nutritionist, but these are just really easy to do, fairly well-known things that we can do to support us. Diet and exercise definitely plays a role in either overcoming or maintaining a pretty negative mood. Yeah.
Well, for me, nature, getting out, and we're so blessed here on the Sunshine Coast, aren't we, with regards to just beautiful places to go and visit and within nature. And for me, nature, just getting out there and walking in nature is massive for me. Yeah. And I also I do a lot of Bikram yoga. I've only just started back actually because I did my Achilles a while ago, so I need to get back. I'm a bit wobbly back there, but I mean, even in the last week or 10 days since I've been back, I've just noticed, not only physically am I starting to sort of get a little bit better, but mentally, it just helps so much.
Makes a big difference, yeah. The whole mindfulness movement and yoga and mindfulness is such lie in that field. Meditating or whatever you want. Even if you go like, oh my God, meditation, I hate meditation. Well, don't do it. But then do mindful walking, just be very aware of your foot and your feet on the floor, or sniff up the scents in the air, or listen to sounds, or look at stuff. But do it with focus, with concentration. Yeah. That is already very mindful. It doesn't matter what you do, as long as you do it with awareness and with focus. I believe in mindfulness meditation as such, because there is lots of evidence that suggests that meditation is actually a good thing. Yeah,
I struggle with meditation.
Yeah, if you hate sitting still, don't sit still.
I know. Well, what is meditation? I mean, there's lots of different forms of. I guess I've got a very active mind, so I've downloaded a couple of apps. One's called Balance, I think, and one other one I enjoy is called One Giant Mind.
Oh, One Giant Mind, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a great place to start, and but I have trouble sitting still, but you don't have to go for a long time, 10 minutes or something like that, and
you don't have to sit still per se. Like yoga, for instance, and moving exercises, but done very deliberately, are very mindful in a way. It's about that focus that you put in whatever it is that you're doing, that creates the mindful moment.
Yeah, and I think it's about being consistent too.
Yes.
Consistent with your exercise, consistent with your diet. I mean, sadly, I think diet plays a
massive role.
Massive role in it, and as you get older, I think sugar especially is just deadly.
Yep.
And you only need to go to the supermarket and look at what somebody's got in their trolleys and look at who's pushing it, and there's a direct reflection, if you know what I mean. I don't say that in a nasty way, but I've been overweight, still am. Well, I am a little bit now, but I've been quite a bit overweight, and yes, it's.
Well, what I think with those things, Andrew, is that it's often people use it as what I call symptom basher. So they feel a particular way, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, I've got to do something. Whereas ideally, you try to make nutrition, exercise, mindfulness, any type of deliberate, wholesome practice part of your everyday life. It just becomes part of your habit. So you're more bolstered and have more resilience against stuff that actually hits you. So
I think a little often is better than a lot for a short time. I mean, that was me. I'm going to get fit, so I'd go 30 days of hardcore and of course that was the end of it.
Snap your Achilles tendon.
Yeah, well, I've sort of overcome that. I realised. I read a book called The One Thing. Gary Keller, I think he's now. I've talked about this before, And so he talks about the one thing on a consistent basis, you know, and, you know, like, for example, exercise, you know, you're better off doing, 20 minutes of walking a day, steady, say 5 days a week, than consistently over a period of time than you are, let's say, going to the gym hardcore for 30 days and then stopping.
Yeah, I would agree.
So I think it's Gary Keller, the one thing, so I highly recommend that. So, well, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, pleasure.
And how, if one wants to contact you, how to
just punch my Dutch name in on Google, you'll find me. But the easiest way is website, Simplifying Life.
Simplifying Life, and you're on Facebook.
On Facebook, on
Simplifying
LinkedIn.
Life.
Yep, on LinkedIn, Marc de Bruin.
Marc de Bruin, yeah.
Type me in that way, or just send me an email or whatever. Just to find me that way. I'm around. Simplifyinglife.com.au is the easiest.
I'll put the link in the description. Thanks very much for your time.
Pleasure.
Lovely to see you as always, and maybe we'll do another video down the track of it.
Sounds good.
Thanks again.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for watching, and once again, if you like this video, please like, share and comment, and subscribe and hit the little notification bell. It's a relatively new channel, so we'd appreciate your support, and we're still feeling our way, but thanks again for watching. Cheers. See you next time. Bye.